Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Better Know a Highway, here on Virtual Road Trip, a series where we take a closer look at the interstates and highways that cross this vast country of ours. In this episode, we have another major east-west route, one that travels from the mid-Atlantic coast, then through the heart of the Great Plains, and finally into the heights of the Rocky Mountains. A little bit of everything this country has to offer. Interstate 70. And real quick, just a reminder to please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Always appreciate that. Check out the VRT Discord for more discussion. Link is in the description below. And if you want to support this channel, you can join as a member by clicking the join button below. And we'll shout out our members at the end of the video. With that out of the way, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Interstate 70 is an east-west oriented cross-country highway that stretches approximately 3/4 of the nation, from the east coast to the Intermountain West, for a total of 2,171 miles while traversing through 10 states. Starting at the eastern end, we begin in the state of Maryland, where I-70 travels through the center of it for 93 miles. The eastern terminus of I-70 is technically at a junction with the local spur I-695 in the Baltimore metro area. However, a short section to the east, leading to a nearby car park, is signed and often considered to be part of I-70 as well. From this point going west, 70 leaves the Baltimore area and heads into central Maryland, passing cities such as Frederick, where 70 junctions with several routes, including the spur I-270, which leads drivers south to the Washington, D.C. area. With a slight bend to the northwest, and after a short distance, 70 enters the Hagerstown area, passing just south of the largest city in western Maryland, and is accessed by taking US Route 40 north. US 40, by the way, will closely follow I-70 across the country for its entire length, as the interstate has essentially replaced the older, local-running US route for long-distance and trucking travel. Just west of Hagerstown, I-70 junctions with the major north-south running I-81, and shortly after, begins to hug the northern side of the Potomac River, following it northwest until reaching the city of Hancock, at the narrowest part of the state. Here, 70 turns due north and junctions with the eastern terminus of I-68, which continues west. Shortly after this turn, I-70 reaches the state border and enters Pennsylvania. I-70 makes a gradual curve west as it crosses through the southwestern corner of the Keystone State for 168 miles. Continuing north, and crossing through several ridges and valleys within the area, I-70 eventually reaches one of the most peculiar spots in the entire interstate system. At the town of Breezewood, Pennsylvania, 70 reaches a true rarity, an at-grade intersection. Approaching from the south, 70 crosses over I-76, but does not junction with it. Instead, it continues north for a short distance to a traffic light intersection with US Route 30. Here, drivers must stop at the light and make a right-hand turn onto US 30 East, then drive a short distance past numerous gas stations and other businesses until reaching another traffic light. At this point, another right-hand turn will lead drivers to an on-ramp back onto the highway where 70 will finally meet with I-76 and begin a lengthy concurrency heading west. Drivers heading in the other direction must also use US 30 to continue that way as well. Also, a toll must be paid, as both highways are now part of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. While numerous proposals have been made to create a proper junction between I-70 and I-76 in this area, opposition from local businesses, which take advantage of the large traffic flow due to this highway anomaly, have prevented any real attempt to fix the gap. Meaning this section of I-70 is a true rarity and one of only two places in the entire interstate system where traffic lights exist. Heading further west, I-70 and I-76 continue their 86-mile long concurrency, traversing numerous gaps through the many ridges in the area, as well as the many valleys between them and the numerous towns within them. Eventually turning slightly northwest, the two highways reach flatter terrain and soon after the borough of New Stanton, Pennsylvania. Here, the long concurrency with I-76 ends, as both it and the Pennsylvania Turnpike continue northwest towards Pittsburgh, while I-70 continues due west, soon crossing the Monongahela River and eventually reaching the city of Washington, Pennsylvania. Nearing the city of Washington, 70 junctions with I-79 and has a brief concurrency with it just to the north of the city. After the two separate, 70 continues to wrap around and actually heads in the southwest direction for a short time before resuming its western course. Not long after leaving the Washington area, 70 reaches the western border of Pennsylvania and enters its next state. I-70 has a brief stretch within the state of West Virginia, crossing the width of its northern panhandle for just 14.5 miles. Running through similar terrain as its previous state, 70 quickly reaches the Wheeling, West Virginia area, where it junctions with a small beltway spur, I-470, and then travels through the appropriately named Wheeling Tunnel. The tunnel is actually two separate tubes that both run just over a quarter mile in length, underneath Wheeling Hill. After emerging from underground, drivers quickly reach the Ohio River, and as there is no westbound off-ramps, they must cross it, as well as the state line, into Ohio. I-70 makes a straight cut through the center of the Buckeye State for 225 miles. Initially entering the rural eastern part of the state, 70 stays on its mostly western path, passing smaller cities such as Cambridge and Zanesville. Along the way, 70 has a junction with I-77, which gives access to eastern Ohio in both directions north and south. Eventually, 70 will reach its next metro area when it encounters the capital city of Columbus. As it approaches from the east, the terrain quickly changes from rural farmland to urban neighborhood. 70 then has a junction with the city beltway, I-270, and then it heads towards downtown and junctions with another north-south highway, I-71, just south of the core of the city. After a short concurrency, 70 wraps north of downtown Columbus and then west once again to head out of the area, where the terrain reverts back to rural landscape just as quickly. Still in a nearly straight east-west orientation, and still closely followed by nearby US Route 40, I-70 enters the western half of Ohio and passes more small cities such as Springfield, and then reaches the Dayton vicinity. Staying a small distance north of the city, it is connected by a spur, I-675, and then by I-75 itself, which is a major north-south route that stretches from Florida to Michigan. Now having passed the city of Dayton, 70 makes its way back into farm country and finally reaches the state line to enter Indiana. Much like its previous state, I-70 cuts a straight line across the center of Indiana from one side to the other for 156 miles. Entering the state near the smaller city of Richmond, 70 juts slightly to the north and then goes straight west through vast farmland while crossing several smaller rivers. It traverses the rural plains of eastern Indiana until it reaches another capital city metro area, this time Indianapolis. Coming from the east and through the local suburbs, I-70 approaches the famous Indy Beltway. But unlike some other highways in the area, 70 simply junctions with I-465 and then continues towards the downtown area, passing just to its east with a short concurrency with I-65. After a turn back to the west, and then southwest, 70 once again junctions with I-465, now on the other side of town, then passes directly south of Indianapolis International Airport. After this, 70 passes through the city's western suburbs, and then quickly back into rural lands, still on a generally southwestern course. After passing by many farms and going through a local state forest, 70 once again turns due west and enters the vicinity of Terre Haute, staying just to its south and connected to it by US Routes 41 and 150, which also provides access to Indiana State University within the city. After leaving this area, 70 quickly reaches another state border and leaves the Hoosier State. For 157 miles, I-70 makes a slice to the southern part of Illinois, the most rural part of the state. Maintaining a northeast to southwest orientation throughout its time within Illinois, 70 runs a near straight line in that direction, still followed closely by US Route 40. The first significant settlement reached is the small city of Effington, close to the center line of the state. Wrapping around the city in a southerly curve, 70 junctions and briefly shares the roadway with the north-south running I-57, turning back to the southwest after the two separate. Back into the countryside for another roughly 75 miles, I-70 eventually begins to travel through more populated areas as it approaches the St. Louis metro area, one of the largest it will pass through along its entire route. With a slight turn more to the west, 70 reaches the outer suburbs and soon meets up with I-55, joining it as it snakes to the south to reach the larger city of East St. Louis. Along the way, 70 passes and provides access to the Cahokia Mounds Historic Site, where pre-Columbian mounds have existed for well over 500 years, some of which can be seen from the highway itself. Now reaching the banks of the Mississippi River, I-70 and I-55 separate, and both cross the river on their own. 70 does so to the north, and as it does, it enters the state of Missouri. Running for 250 miles within the Show Me State, I-70 connects the state's two largest cities on opposite ends. Now within the city limits of St. Louis, 70 stays to the north of downtown and begins to loop around the city on that side. Immediately after crossing the river, 70 junctions with the northern terminus of I-44, and then has two more junctions with beltway spurs, I-170 and I-270, while also skirting the south side of St. Louis International Airport. And shortly after that, crossing another bridge, this time over the Missouri River, the longest river in the United States. Running westward through numerous St. Louis suburbs, 70 soon enters the central part of the state, and passes by several smaller cities and towns within more rural stretches. The next major settlement is the city of Columbia, in the heart of Missouri. While the highway passes near the city center, it also junctions with US Route 63, which leads drivers south to the state capital of Jefferson City. Fun fact, Jefferson City is one of only 4 state capitals in the US not directly serviced by an interstate highway. Now in the western half of the state, and back into farm country, 70 continues in the same direction, veering slightly to once again cross the Missouri River to its southern side. From here, it continues past a few small towns until finally reaching population again and the other major metro area of Missouri, Kansas City. As it enters the city proper, 70 crosses two beltway spurs, first I-470 and then I-435, and then heads straight for downtown Kansas City and passes directly through it, while also having a very brief concurrency with the long-running I-35, and another spur, I-670. After separating once again, 70 quickly crosses the state border with little notice, entering its next state while still within the city. I-70 will snake its way through the state of Kansas for a total of 424 miles, second most of any state. Now on the Kansas side of Kansas City, I-70 immediately crosses the appropriately named Kansas River and continues west, junctioning with more spurs such as I-635 and for a second time I-435. It then leaves the KC area and soon crosses the same river yet again, where it then enters another capital city region, this time the city of Topeka. 70 crosses to the north, while a small beltway, I-470, goes around the southern side of the city. Also in this direction is another much longer spur, I-335. This is notable as it links the Topeka area with I-35 to the south and provides a major route in that direction. 70 now enters the vast plains of central Kansas for a long trek across the state. It follows and crosses several smaller rivers, such as the Smoky Hill and Solomon rivers, while passing cities such as Manhattan, Junction City, Salina, and eventually Hayes. At Salina, 70 junctions with the major spur I-135, which takes drivers south to the city of Wichita, roughly 85 miles away. As it chugs further along, 70 reaches the high plains of western Kansas. The terrain is noticeably drier and hotter, with long straight sections of highway. Passing one last city of note, Goodland, Kansas, and traversing the highest elevations in the state, 70 crosses yet again another state border and leaves the Sunflower State. I-70's most interesting state that it travels through has to be Colorado, where it runs its longest stretch of 450 miles, from flat high plains to snow-capped mountains and deep river valleys. Entering the state near the small city of Burlington, the terrain stays consistent for many more miles. Soon enough, however, the vast peaks of the Rocky Mountains become visible in the distance, and grow larger as the highway moves west. After a swerve to the north near Lehman, Colorado, 70 keeps west as it enters the heart of the state and the Denver metro area. Entering the area a small distance south of the massive Denver International Airport, which can be accessed via the toll-bound State Route 430, 70 enters the heavily populated suburban city of Aurora, where a spur, I-225, heads south into it. Traversing just north of downtown Denver, 70 has a major junction with the north-south running I-25, which leads further into the city. Then shortly after, there is a junction with the southern terminus of I-76, which approaches the city from the northeast. Continuing through more suburban cities and passing to the southeast of Golden, Colorado, 70 approaches the flanks of the Front Range, where it shifts slightly to the south to enter the canyon created by Mount Vernon Creek, alongside its partner route, US 40, and begins a massive increase in elevation as it heads deeper into the Rocky Mountains. Traversing the peaks through the Clear River Gorge, 70 passes a few mountain towns, including nearby Idaho Springs, and climbs ever more until it reaches another major landmark, the Eisenhower Tunnel, where I-70 passes under the Great Continental Divide at an elevation of 11,154 feet, the highest elevation any highway reaches in the entire interstate system. Completed in 1973, with a second tube completed in 1979, the Eisenhower Tunnel stretches 1.7 miles under the central spine of the Rockies. It moves more than 32,000 vehicles a day in both directions, and is a major link for travelers to reach Colorado's famous ski country and other areas to the west. After emerging back above ground, 70 drops down into the river valley below, and continues to snake around the many mountain peaks, some of the tallest in the continental US. Soon enough, it reaches or nears many well-known mountain towns, such as Breckenridge, Frisco, and the world-famous resort town Vail. It's also in this area where 70 reaches the Eagle River and follows its path further west. Once near the town of Dotzero, the Eagle empties into the mighty Colorado River, and 70 continues next to it and eventually crossing it several times, often through impressive tunnel structures. 70's final stretch within Colorado has it follow the river of the same name for the entire route left. At this point, US 40 has diverged significantly from 70 to the north, and it's US Route 6 that now runs concurrent throughout most of the mountainous area ahead. Elevation eventually levels out, and the valleys open up slightly as 70 reaches Glenwood Springs, where State Route 82 can be reached, leading drivers to nearby Aspen. As the highway moves further west, 70 enters Grand Junction, Colorado, the last city it will pass in the state, and curves its way through the valley it's within. Not long after this, 70 ends its epic journey in this beautiful state and enters Utah. The Beehive State is the final state for I-70, where it travels for 231 miles within. In the arid terrain of the west, I-70, now concurrent with US Route 50, diverges from the Colorado River and continues on its path, eventually reaching and crossing the Green River near the town of the same name, and having a second concurrency with US Route 191, which branches off both north and south to reach the cities of Price and Moab respectively. Moving ahead, once west of the San Rafael River, I-70 enters a series of spectacular canyons. First, the Wolf Canyon, and then Eagle Canyon, both with impressive rock formations next to the highway. Once again at a significant elevation, 70 enters the southern Wasatch Range, where it crests the ridge at Emigrant Pass with a height of 7,886 feet above sea level. At this point, 70 descends back down and into its next valley along the Sevier River. Now on a southwestern path, 70 passes several mid-sized towns and settlements, as well as numerous farms, before making one last turn to the west, where a junction with the major north-south running I-15 marks the terminus, thus finally ending I-70's incredible 2,171-mile run across the heart of the country. Well, that's going to do it for this rather in-depth and lengthy episode of Better Know a Highway. I really hope you enjoyed it, though, and hope you learned something along the way. And hey, before you go, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, definitely appreciate that. Make sure to check out the VRT Discord, the link will be in the description below. And real quick, just want to shout out my members. Big thanks to all these folks. They definitely help support this channel, and I really appreciate it. And if you want to help support this channel for just $3 a month, you can click the join button below as well. And I thank you for that. And that's going to do it for this episode, but as always, make sure you enjoy the ride. And up next, Interstate 69. Nice. And I'll see you then.